Good evening, all. So, this is video three. I'd advise you to watch video one and two so that this makes more sense. So, we're talking about the Appalachian Footpath Box. And is it confirmation bias, reality, or some of both? And I'm Barb, the Dirt Pirate. And that's my Princess Lily back there. So, where do we begin? If you look at through hikers, they usually start at I don't know how to say that, Amicalola or Amicola Falls, and head north to Springer Mountain, which is about 8.5 miles. And they do this because they have to pick up their book with their stamps and to get stamps to show that they're doing a hike through or a partial hike through. So my solve can start there or at Wyabald, and it's represented by the bald guy in the left-hand lower corner. And look at those trees. They do look a lot like the magnifying glass trees. And we do have stones. There's so much interpretation into the icons, and these are just some of mine. And they may be right, they may be wrong. Uh, we'll see when someone finds the box. And if they find it because of my presentation here, I pray that they give me a small pittance. So where do we go from there? Well, north, as directed by the arrow. Um, so here is our ball guy, and if you look, there are things in every picture that you look in. There are things here, there, everywhere. Um, there's just so many hidden things that are they real? Uh, are we supposed to find them with the magnifying glass? John said all you need is the map and the magnifying glass, and so uh, it's all up to interpretation. And yes, I believe there's more there than meets the eye. The arrow is on this side of the ball, dude, and is pointed slightly. I put north, north, northeast, which I know is not a direction, or maybe it is, but north, just a hairpin to the right. It's really not north, northeast. So, how far north do we travel? That's up to interpretation, too. To answer this question, we need to interpret information on the map. There are three ways to solve the map. We can follow the arrows, which may be one way, north, east, and then north again. We can follow the large icons or place them around a specific area. Follow the small icons of similarity, and there are. There are big things and little things like apples and skiers and bears, and I haven't found a little butterfly. So it makes me wonder why some have a large and a small and others don't. Um, I've lost my train of thought. Sorry. Following hidden icons in the border. I don't have anything conclusive on this one, and I'm not sure that anyone does. Are we dealing with numbers and letters or both? And there are numerous of both, trust me. The map. Do we look at it whole or do we fold it? And I've found four ways that people have folded it. So with the main map, that's five different maps. Or you can just beat your head against the wall and throw a dart at the map, and maybe we'll have more luck with that. So here are some of the folds that have been found, uh, that I've found. If I find anything interested in Discord, I don't go to Facebook too much. I usually hang with the folks on Discord. And so here we folded it and shortened the map. So do we look at the big map and then take a section of it? Don't know. These are similar. The difference is they have folded up. So it's been folded twice, which knocks out some of this area here, which basically knocks out the spear arrow thing, and a few, and the weird thing that looks like a shoehorn. So I'm going to tip my screen just for a minute. Um, and so here are the third and fourth ways. And I forget where I got the one on the left here. But it's interesting that it peaks. They have actually flipped the map over and folded it. It's similar to the one on the right, but still kind of inconclusive there. So, is it my opinion or confirmation bias? Who knows? And so we can start at Springer Mountain as indicated by the dog. We can go fetch. But is the begin here the actual begin here for all three solves? I don't think so. The trail map tells us to start here and go to look around. So if the beginning is the beginning of the Appalachian Trail, we go north as indicated by the arrow to Kauai. I think that's how you say it. If I mispronounced it, I'm very sorry. I'm dyslexic, and so is JCB for those that didn't know that. So you might take that into consideration when looking at some clues. It's also known as Klingman's Dome. And so is Wire or Kauai our look arounds, or is our adventure to look around? And I believe that Klingman's Dome is represented by the compass rose. And like I said earlier, I think a lot of these icons or pictograms, whatever you want to call them, I look at them as icons. I think they can be interpreted or used in multiple ways. And that's how we're going to find where the box is. Uh, and so I also think the compass rose could be a roulette wheel leading to Cherokee or other casinos near the Appalachian Trail. Um, and if you blow it up, you can see rings in it that may represent Klingman's Dome. I feel we need to switch back and forth between solve to solve uh, on the map, because that's like switching from little icons to big to numbers to get it to click. So what do we see or pass from Springer Mountain to Klingman's via mile markers? And I thought this was real interesting, and I just actually put this together last night. And so these are all mile markers. So we have Hightower Gap, and I'm just looking for words that could relate to anything on the map. Blood Mountain Red, White Oak Stamp Gap, Red Clay Gap, Blue Mountain, Indian Grave Map. The Indian, I think Cherokee does play a role, or the Native Americans do. And so anything related to them, I have thrown here. Dismal Gap, I put in there because we're all a little dismal lately. Little Bald Knob, Rich Knob, White Oak Stump, Yellow Mountain, Bear Pen Gap, Steel Trap, Rainbow Springs. There's our rainbow. Wine Spring Bald, Wire Bald, Copper Ridge Bald, Paint Mountain. And I'm really interested in that, and I want to do more research on that. Grassy Gap, Sassafras Gap, and I had to look that up. It can be green, yellow, or orange. Brown Fork Gap, Yellow Creek Gap, Black Gum Gap. You see where I'm going? The poem that goes with this chapter is Follow a Rainbow Trail. Well, starting at Springer, we are everything but purple. We have Black Gum, Red Ridge, Big Chestnut, because is the basket of apples, chestnuts, or buckeyes, which all grow proliferately here. Um, there's no purple except in the Rainbow Springs and Paint Mountain. But violet honey is only produced in NC. Smoky Mountains can appear purple, so we can pull some purple into all the other colors, but all the other colors of the rainbow are present between uh, Springer Mountain and Klingman's Dome. So where do we turn right eastward if we're following the arrows for the big solve? Because I think the arrows would be the big solve. And then the next solve will take you to the same place, but a smaller area. So if we interchange solves, both Wire and Klingman's may be our lookarounds. Go north, then east. The largest trail to go east is the Mountain to Sea Trail. Does it make sense to turn here? I don't know, but there's a lot of things that dragged me that way. Um, So I think they were just too much to ignore. The Mountain to Sea Trail zigzags across the Blue Ridge Parkway for many miles. However, the mile markers do not correlate. So we need to look at both sets of mile markers. And I found a new map today. Uh, so I'm using like every map out there, the Appalachian Trail through the National Park Service, the Blue Ridge Parkway through the NPS, the Mountain to Sea Trail through MTS.org, uh, and there's another one. I can't remember. Uh, I just type it in and they all populate in my search. Uh, you can go back to my other videos where I talk about this, but we started down here in the bottom left and we're gonna go up almost all the way to the top right. And so what mile markers may be important on the Blue Ridge? Well, mile marker 469 is the end, which ends right in Cherokee. If you go left, you're in Cherokee. You go right, you're going to go 441 over the mountain to Gatlinburg. And right there on the right is where you see the elk, and that's the, I'm going to mess this up, Oconofaludi, I think, museum, and the village is there. And I may have mispronounced that. I'm sorry. I have a hard time with native language. 452 is Cranberry Ridge Overlook. So we're on the Mountain to Sea Trail. We've left the AT. Then we hit Water Rock Knob. Some of these I don't have mile markers for. You can look them up. And then Yellowface Overlook, Orchards Overlook. Then we cross 1974. And then we hit Standing Rock Overlook. And this rock looks a lot like the rock or the waterfall on the map. Then Laurel Patch, just because he mentions mountain laurels. Richland Balsam Overlook is the highest peak on the Blue Ridge at 6,404 feet. And I really think that I just don't believe it's 1727 feet. I mean, that would like rule out like 98% of North Carolina because everything's so much higher than that. So I really think we convert that to meters, which is 5,666, which then brings probably 60 to 75% of the AT and the MST into play. Then we have Bear Trail Ridge, Big Bear Trail Ridge, Bear Trap Gap Overlap, excuse me, Little Bear Pen Gap. 428 is Caney Fork Overlook, and I live in the Caney Fork community. Don't come looking for me. It's over 10 miles long, one way in, one way out. So once you get in, you don't want to get caught in. And then Bear Pen Gap Overlook. So this is Standing Rock Overlook, and I think that rock structure is really cool. The Blue Ridge Parkway is closed right now, and we'll talk about that later. You can still get to the Mountain to Sea Trail from numerous places, but there's only so many exit places. And so now that has a dilemma, and I meant to put that in here and I didn't. But when I get to my dilemmas, I'll talk about that. As I stated earlier, icons can represent more than one thing and can be used in more than one solve. Then we hit wolf ball because is it a cat? Is it a wolf? There are shadows of animals. So any animal I pulled in here. Heron knob, the red herons and the knob on the box, was that coincidental? You don't know what JCB's thinking. I actually had somebody I'm chatting with tonight, and they're like, why would he do that? And I'm like, that's just the way he thinks, you know? And then the Courthouse Valley Overlook. Okay, so what do we encounter next? Well, this is my map, and I talked more about it in the other video. So you hit Devil's Courthouse, and then you hit Highway 215, which is the left side of the triangle. A half a mile up on the left is Green Mountain Trail. In the center of the triangle is the Graveyard Field Loop. before that is Looking Glass Rock Overlook, like right before it, because we're all thinking, was that a scroll? Was it Looking Glass? I now think it's something different. I love it when people blow things up and post them online because I steal them all. And so I give credit to everyone I've stolen everything from, except for my work. My pictures and diagrams are mine. And then right at the bottom of the triangle, below the Blue Ridge Parkway, is that line that goes from right to left, is Monarch Migration Station, aka Cherry Gap Overlook. And the right side of the triangle is State Road 1727, aka Cruzo Road, Highway 276, and it is called the Pisgah Triangle. So I've always wondered, is that our beginning triangle, our ending triangle? I even thought of the triad and research triangle. They're near Chapel Hill and Statesville. Is that where we were supposed to start from, where he landed? I don't know. So there's too many what ifs. So where do we go? There are so many numbers that could make sense. One was mile marker 443, as it was 26 miles from the end of the Blue Ridge Parkway, or 56 miles from Klingman's on the Mountain to Sea Trail. Honestly, I can't remember what number brought me to this site, but it did. And also the shape of the map. And you can see the mile marker is indicated by that little blue, I don't know what it is, upside down teardrop. And people probably think, if you look at, oh God, information overload and Hux and a couple of the other, they're doing the circle things. Well, you got to remember we have right brain, left brain people, and we think totally different. And those guys can have all that crazy arithmetic. I'll stick to the facts here. And so this is another look at the previous map without the trail, because this is on a different map. So it doesn't have the Mountain to Sea Trail. But there is a triangle there. Is that the triangle we start at and go the other way? I don't know. And what's funny is right below that mile marker, and I don't want to go back and mess up the voice overlay. But if you go back to the slide before, right below that mile marker is Highway 1777. So let's go back to the Pisgah Triangle and chat about what is near. I've always thought there was a Biltmore connection. Now I'm not sure, but we all change our mind like we change our undies, except for the Little Rock Pond people. They will not change their mind. Love you all, but I mean, in doing this presentation, I found things that I wanted to put in it, but no, I need to research them more. And so uh, this video was to give you everything I had at this point 2 weeks ago. So anything from then to now, sorry, it's not in here. You'll have to wait for number 4 or when I find the box. But, the odds to that are slim to none. But, I'm having a blast helping people. And if my stuff helps somebody, hopefully they'll, take me out to dinner or something. So is there a Biltmore connection? So while hitting a dead end at State Road 1727 and not sure which way to travel, I just started researching the area. And I came up with Buck Spring Lodge. And I'm like, what the heck is this? I've lived here 30-something years. Well, it was built by George Washington Vanderbilt, who built the Biltmore House in Asheville. And so I thought, okay, JCB lived in Nashville. There's got to be a connection. Maybe. I don't know. It was made from chestnut wood. Chestnuts look like apples. So, there's it's near multiple high points. It's on a high point itself. The shape of the path is close to the weird shoehorn-shaped item. The shut-in trail and rhododendron hell are nearby. And they're two different. The shut-in trail went from Biltmore Lodge. Well, it actually went to Canton near Biltmore, which is like right behind it. So basically from their back door up to Buck Spring Lodge. And they called it the shut-in trail because they horsebacked up there in the beginning. the first couple years, and then a road was put in, and then automobiles came along and they would drive up. Uh, but down below it, I found an article, and I should have put some of the article in here, but I've read it a couple times. So they interviewed this guy whose grandfather, I believe, he was a little kid, and his grandfather was a caretaker. And he remembered as a kid going down to not the spring house, there is a spring house, but down to the well. And uh, the author that writes story about finding it like 15 years ago, and he was in his 70s, and he said he called it rhododendron hell. He said it was so thick, it was so hard to get through. Well, they used a ramjet pump to pump the water from a half-mile away to the lodge. So this gentleman who's 72, and I wish I knew his name, it was in one of the Western North Carolina, the Mountaineer, so at least give the paper credit. Uh, when he found it, there was an old service road, but that road like 20 years ago, and I've looked at the service road maps and I can't find a service road that would take you down there. He went down like the wrong way, and it took him like most of the day, but he found it. And everything was built by Richard Morris Hunt, and he's not only the builder of Biltmore, but he also built the base for the Statue of Liberty. And that intrigued me because from day one, the little wispy thing, I thought it looked like a torch, and I talked about that in my earlier video, but I was associating it to uh, an Olympic torch and not the Statue of Liberty torch. So let's look at some stuff. And these are all compliment of Google. And so these are just pictures of the Biltmore gates. And this looks a lot of the work looks like our box, but was it only inspired by Biltmore? That's the question. And this is a original draft of Buck Spring Lodge that Mr. Hunt, this is his architectural design. And where the gardens were is where the parking lot is. I could not find where the orchard was, but they had an orchard and they didn't have groundskeepers. They actually had a flock of sheep that ate the grass so that they didn't have to care for it. On the left here is Buck Spring Lodge, and that tree just grabbed me. There are trees on the map, and in the middle is the spring house, which is where water was pumped to keep food cold. And then the upper right is the steps going from the parking area up to the lodge. And I'm sorry, my picture is covering the picture. And when it's small, it looks like a rock formation, maybe with a waterfall down the middle. But if you look on the left, there is an eave of a house. And so is the house hid by a tree? I don't know. So this is just, again, some things I stole. And I've got my thing tilted because, sorry, I'm having a cold beverage. And so on the left is something I stole from somebody off of Discord. And he drew a triangle, and is that relevant? Well, it's hard to see, but you can Google the Blue Ridge Parkway and go to mile marker. I put my map up. Oh, just look for Pisgah Inn, and it's just northeast of that. And so it actually looks like this weird triangle, but flipped the other way. And that's the Buck Spring Loop. I don't think the box is at the Spring House, because the Spring House, if you look at the white road coming off of the Blue Ridge, you can walk from there like 40 feet and hit the Spring House. So I was really looking for where the waterfall was, and we're going to look at that. I guess not next. So these are, this is the Statue of Liberty and things by Richard Morris Hunt. And if you look, the designs are a lot alike. Now, is it just because of period? Did JCB like this Victorian era? I don't know. But then I also thought, yes, she has sandals, but are the feet a clue to this too? I don't know. That's probably confirmation bias, but I like the link. Uh, and these are some more. This tree on the left, I will go see. The Blue Ridge Parkway is closed right now. But that is at Buck Spring Lodge. And in Canton, which is close to Asheville, this is the monument they put up, dedicating, I believe, the Pisgah Forest when they handed over a lot of it to the National Park Service. And here's the beginning of the Shut-in Trail. And you look at all these dates and you're looking for that one that just smacks you upside the head, and it just don't. Of course, 17 does, but um, oh yeah. So I got this picture from some folks doing a hike through, and they were doing it from southwest of the Buck Spring Lodge, and it was called the hike through the Buck Spring Lodge. And I took this picture out of their video, and it's supposedly somewhere near the lodge, but I've yet to be able to find it. Um, could it be there? Sure looks like that waterfall tree thing. I don't know. The other thing that got me was the pump that from the pump house a half mile below the lodge was ran by what's called the ramjet pump. And if you look at the arrow on the left, which is off our map, the top of it looks like the top of the ramjet. It doesn't look like a true arrow or spear. And these are just more pictures to look at the different heads. And I just really felt there was a correlation. The other correlation was the Biltmores were dog lovers and had many. I think this guy's name is Cedric, but he looks a lot like our dog, in my opinion. Um, and like I said, the Buck Spring Lodge also had an orchard, but I can't, it's not on any of the maps. It's not talked about. But in one article, briefly, with the mention of the sheep, and that he stocked the woods with deer, the springs with trout, and I think he stocked them with bear too for his hunting and fishing folks. So other high points near Buck Spring. So, is Buck Spring the triangle? Is there a triangle there? Uh, so do we need to go to a high point? Well, Mount Pisgah Trail is probably a moderate hike. And it's 712 feet elevation gain. Yeah, you keep seeing those 1771s. It's like, ah. Uh, and so a lot of biblical mention about it. So the reason my fingers are in these is because when I post them, I didn't want nobody to know where they are. But I'm at that point. Hey, I can't get up there. You can't. Well, you can get up there. You just can't drive on the Blue Ridge Parkway, but you can walk that Mountain to Sea Trail. You just better know that you may go 50 miles before you can get off it, that nobody can get up there to get you, unless you're airlifted. And so the one on the left is Mount Pisgah, the white is the Mount Pisgah Trail, the yellow is a county line, a little similarity. And then people have said the arrow may be a VHF tower. Well, that's on top of Mount Pisgah. And then Mount Pisgah is to the northeast of the upside down green teardrop marker. The red is Frying Pan Mountain Lookout. I really was stuck there for a long, long time. And there's only one way in and one way out. I don't think John would do that. I think it'd be on a trail that you could come in from either end, like our map. So, and it's well traveled. The tower is no longer open. You can climb up it, but you can't get up into the tower. And then this is little Mount Pisgah's in the back. Little Pisgah is the mountain in front, and the X, which I really hooked on that. I think that was confirmation bias. Uh, but it's where Buncombe, Brevard, Haywood, and Jackson County come together, and they make an X. The white dot is the Mountain to Sea Trail, and it's a couple miles from the parking lot to that area. Is it there? I guess we'll find out if it ever opens up. So here, the picture on the left is again the X showing the Mountain to Sea Trail is the little teeny red dotted lines. And I hope you're not going to watch this on a phone. I hope you have a computer to watch it on. And the one on the right I put because there are some fake ones of this on the Facebook page. People are finding AI generated ones made with 1930, 1727. I seen one. Well, it was really put up there in 1935. And to make sure this wasn't, it obviously came off of something and they put it in this trait recently. Uh, I did do a search on the webpage, and yes, the 1935 is around the time that the parkway was built in that area. So if you see any other crazy numbers for Mount Pisgah, they're probably wrong. What intrigued me was the arrow with the line in the middle because our arrow has a line in the middle. Other things, I really thought these were scrolls down here, and they still may be. And that's what hooked me to the Statue of Liberty because her dress are like scrolls. But are they really representing birch trees? We don't know. This, I have a lot. This is what I thought might be the torch, either Olympic or the Statue of Liberty. The blue, I've talked about in other videos. It may be related to the Cherokees butterfly dance. It could just be the wispiness of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It could be water. It could be a Blue Blaze Trail. The picture on the right, I found a lot of these, and I think they're cool because if you look at the branches that are sticking up, there are so many things on the map, John's crazy writing, that looks like branches. And these I put in just because uh, this map is grayed out. I don't remember who posted it. And the one on the right is uh, one without the trail, just with the icons. So confirmation bias versus reality, who knows? We do have 4 ski areas in North Carolina, some big, some small. Apples must have, I think there's going to be a bigger significance to link the Apple connection. I think water must be present, and it is, but cannot find where the falls are on the video of hiking, at the Buck Spring Lodge. But I really think water needs to be present. Um, and then scroll, is it a scroll versus birch trees? And like I said, see my other things. And oh, I was going to talk about the Blue Ridge Parkway before I go. So they just close it whenever they want to. And JCB in the Relic, Treasure Con, recently in an interview, he said no, there nothing would be closed by authorities to prevent you from getting to the box. And so I have to look at 2 ways. Well, yeah, the Blue Ridge Parkway is closed. The Mountain to Sea Trail isn't. It would take you days or many hours to get from a road where you can park and get up onto the trail, but it is doable. Uh, and he hesitated about that. So it really makes me wonder, is it there? And he just, they close 441 to Gatlinburg all the time. but you can park at the gate and still walk there. So I don't take a lot of reliability to his answer there.